Gotta tell you, I don't remember the last time y'all sounded so good. Train. You think they would check with us, you know? Things dying down. You know, a great American died just this past week. Louis Zamperini was 97 years old. Some of you may remember I spoke of him several years ago after having read the story of his life in a book entitled Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. 4 years later, after that book was published, it's still on the New York Times bestseller list. It really is a remarkable story. An Olympic long-distance runner, Louis Zamperini, participated in the Berlin Olympic Games in 1936. He met Adolf Hitler. Moreover, he looked forward to the 1940 Games to be held in, are you ready for this? Tokyo. Oops. Needless to say, there were no Olympic Games in 1940 in Tokyo or any place else. And Louis Zamperini went to war instead. He joined the Army Air Corps, that which we now know as the Air Force, and subsequently served as the bombardier of a B-24 Liberator serving in the Pacific Theater. And the book makes it very clear that it was terrifying duty. Those pilots, those crews, it took everything they had just to get in that plane one more time, and then one more time the next day, and one more time the day after that. They had nervous breakdowns and such. And the book notes that at the end of that war, more than 50% of the men who served in those planes were lost. And as fate would have it, Louis' plane went down in April of 1943, in the middle of that great big ocean. And the book tells the gripping tale of Louis and two comrades on a life raft for 43 days without food, without fresh water. They managed to catch a few fish and even managed to snag a couple of albatrosses, if you can believe that. Moreover, they got the water they needed from occasional rain showers. 43 days in an open life raft. If that wasn't bad enough, they were constantly attacked by sharks from below and strafed by Japanese fighter planes from above. In fact, there's one scene in that book where Louis over the side because the planes are strafing the raft. He's under the water, hanging on with one hand and beating off a shark with the other hand. You can believe that. 43 days. It was truly a harrowing tale. And then descending from the frying pan to the fire, they were rescued, as you can call it that, by the Japanese. And Louis was interred for the rest of the war in a particularly nasty Japanese prisoner of war camp in the heart of Japan. There, he was beaten every single day for 2 years. And he endured endless cruelties at the hand of a particular guard who they called the Birdman. The Birdman. So you can well imagine that at the end of that war, Louis emerged from that camp an angry man, set on vengeance, and in fact, he actually returned to Japan in search of his tormentor after the war, determined to kill him. Back home, life was difficult to say the least. Because of the severity of the injury sustained during his ordeal, he couldn't run anymore. Moreover, he suffered from that which we would call today post-traumatic stress syndrome. He had it in spades, as you can well imagine. Depression, anxiety, nightmares, panic attacks, alcohol. He started getting into bar fights. Louis Zamperini, who spent 2 years in a Japanese POW camp, almost lost it when he got back home, and he almost didn't make it. But then one night, are you ready for this? He wandered into a Billy Graham crusade. You really can't make this up, can you? And he gave his life to Jesus. And for the next 50 years, he told this story that I just told you as part of his Christian witness as part of his Christian testimony to packed houses and arenas all around the world. Louis Zamperini, American hero. He died just this last week. And so we salute Louis this weekend as part of our Independence Day celebration. And so we salute all the men and women who have sacrificed so much down through the years, endured unimaginable hardship, overcome unthinkable obstacles so that you and I can be free. It is a gift that we can never repay. You know, this past Thursday, I was at the funeral of a man that I've known pretty much my whole life. He was 93 years old and a World War II veteran. He was the father of one of my oldest and dearest friends, and the service was beautiful, an appropriate tribute to a great, great man. But when the service was over, I was talking to my friend, and he said, you know, I really do miss my dad. I really do, but what worries me is that he is among the last of that great generation. That generation that survived the Great Depression and won that war. And my friend and I agree that both our dads were part of that great, great generation, a generation that will be sorely missed. But I got to thinking about it. You know, America has had heroes in every generation, right from the beginning. A couple of years ago, I read another book, a book entitled 1776 by David McCullough, another terrific book. And it was about the American Revolutionary War in 1776, that single year. 1776 was not a good year for us, y'all. You know, I've always thought of myself as a pretty good amateur historian, but until I read that book, I had no idea how close we came to not existing as a nation at all. That whole book, except for the very last chapter, chronicles defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat at the hands of the British. We couldn't catch a break in 1776. Y'all, it was depressing to read. We just kept losing. They had every advantage. They had more soldiers. They had better trained soldiers. They had better equipped soldiers. They had better officers. They had better strategists. All that year, they outfought us and outfought us. And oh, by the way, they had the most powerful navy in the world. There is no way we should have won that war. What, were we nuts? Who did we think we were? But in the end, we won with determination and perseverance and guts and faith. And finally, you know what happened? We just wore them out. We just outlasted them. And they went home. And so the United States of America was born. I said a moment ago that we've had heroes in every generation. And of course it's true. But you know, some of you are here this morning, and you are owed a debt of gratitude by all of us. For we remain strong and free because of your sacrifice. We remain strong and free. Is this a great country or what? But you know what? It seems to me that it is our tendency all too often to focus on what's wrong with America. I hear it all the time, y'all. Every coffee hour. Ain't it awful? What in the world are we coming to? What happened to the good old days? Well, let me make an observation. To my knowledge, Americans are not walking across hundreds of miles of deserts and mountains to get to Mexico or Central America. No, we're not. And you know what? There's a reason for that. Now, I don't know where you come down to all that. I don't know what you think about that larger situation. But we need to at least understand and agree that by and large, those folks are not invaders. Rather, they are refugees. Many of them women and children. And they see that we are free, and they want to be free too. Now, you may not like it, but you can't blame them for trying to be in this great country. Nor, by the way, do we need to blame those protesters in California stopping those buses. They're afraid. I get it. I'm afraid too. It's just that we need to figure out a way to serve both justice and mercy. You see. You know, we've always liked to think of ourselves as a Christian nation. I hear that all the time too in Bossier Parish. We're a Christian nation, okay? That's fine. But given that, it seems that we would do well to reconsider the words of Jesus in this morning's gospel, part of the most important sermon he ever preached, the darndest thing he ever said, when he directs us to love even our enemies. You can't make that up. Jesus says we got to love our enemies. Now, I am confident that we will find a solution to this refugee situation. I'm confident that we will be able to temper concerns about national security and sovereignty with compassion and the love of Christ. I'm confident that we will do that because we are a great nation. We are a great nation under God, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal. On this Independence Day weekend, we have much to be thankful for. We're free to go where we choose. We're free to think what we choose. We're free to worship as we choose. And even in our day, these are no small things. And so, let us with glad and grateful hearts give thanks to God for all that we have, and for all that we are, and for all that we shall be.